Welcome to another episode of Journey to the Pit. I'm Jim Collins and I'll be your host this evening. If this is your first time hanging out with us from YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so you do not miss these amazing interviews. If you're watching us from Journey to the Pit Facebook page, make sure you hit that thumbs up, that like button, and also that follow. So what we do over here at Journey to the Pit, we interview game fowl breeders from all over the world and all different backgrounds and geographical locations. So these guys can come on the show and share their unfiltered information on what they do to raise game fowl and what are some of the methods and tricks and tips that they have done over the years to gain their success. We'll be talking about some history. We'll be talking about breeding. We'll be talking about broodstock selection and raising biddies and all the most important things of the 362 days that is so important. So before we get started, I'd like to go ahead and say the disclaimer. All the information discussed in this interview is for historical, educational, and entertainment purposes only. None of this information is intended for any illegal purposes, and all opinions are respective of the individual. So we have a special guest. Many of y'all guys know him. This is a highly anticipated interview. Somebody I have known. He's a very active breeder. He's many times that I have seen him, it's been him and his son. But these guys are not a large farm, but they're what I call the backbone of the sport. I think they are a good representation of what this sport is all about when it comes to breeders. They got some very good birds, very healthy. They take very good care of them. And the guys are very active. So we have Jerry Lopez from Nitrous Gamefarm, hailing out of Texas, that we're going to be coming on tonight. That's going to be sharing a lot of his inside information. I'm really looking forward to having him on tonight so he can share his history, his story, and some of the things that he do to make his program successful. I see a lot of people already checking in from all over. What's up, John? We got Guerrero coming in. Marcus, I hear you over there, YouTube, man. I appreciate y'all checking in from YouTube because it lets us know that everything is working on both ends. We got Little Rock, Arkansas. I've been out to Little Rock, Arkansas. Jerry. That's right. Joseph Jerry is coming on this evening, man, and he's going to be sharing a lot of his tips and tricks of what it took him to be where he is today. I think this is going to be a great interview, guys. I see a lot of people that's checking in already from all over the place. It's going to be another fantastic interview. Guys, post questions in the comments if you have those questions. We will try to get to some of the questions in the comment section as we're going through the interview. But sometimes some of the questions that's asked are on topics that we plan to get to that we have not gotten to yet. So if you don't see a question, get answered, just know that we're not ignoring it, but it might be something that we plan on covering anyway. Again, make sure you post those comments, those questions in the comment section, because sometime we'll do part 1 and part 2. If we get a lot of questions in the comment sections that we are not able to get to, we'll have our special guest come back on at a later date to address those questions. Also, too, he'll probably go in the comment section after the video is after the interview is over and maybe address those questions. And guys, his information will be in this post. So if you're interested in reaching out directly to him, you can. Please do. I encourage you. I don't think he'll mind. But again, don't hesitate to post those questions in the comment section. But it looks like we got everybody checking in. We got Mexico checking in, Hawaii checking in, Chicago checking in. We got everybody checking in, Tennessee, Texas. So we got a lot of people that's coming in already. We have about 60 people already watching. We got people watching from YouTube and Facebook. So, guys, let me get ready to go ahead. We got Southeast Georgia coming in. So, guys, let me go ahead. Arizona. I hate to keep giving all these shout outs and I see y'all guys checking in. But it's all good. We greatly appreciate y'all guys' support. So let's go ahead and get ready to get this interview started. But what I need to do before we get this interview started, I need to give a shout out to a little guy out there in California. His name is Leland. And he's a little game fowl breeder. Well, I ain't going to say little. He's very young. He's a young game fowl breeder that's working very hard. And he's a big supporter of Journey to the Pit. He's always watching the Journey to the Pit interviews. I had an opportunity to meet him face to face when I went out into California, I think in November, and had an opportunity to meet him and his father. I'm sorry, him and his father. And he sent me some pictures last night of his birds. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him. Hopefully, Leland, you're watching. If not, you'll watch on a replay. But guys, let me go ahead and bring our special guest Jerry Lopez from Nitrous Game Farms. We're going to go ahead and bring him on in and get this interview ready to rock and roll. So here we go.
Jim, how you doing, brother?
Hey, Jerry, how you doing today? Welcome,
Doing
welcome,
good.
to Journey to the Pit, man. We greatly appreciate you coming on this evening to share some of your tips and tricks, man, of what got you to where you are today, man. I guess you heard the intro, just said a little bit about you, but let's go ahead and talk a little bit about you for the people who do not know you. How did you get started? Are you first or second generation, game fowl breeder? Let's just start from there.
Well, Jim, I appreciate you having me on. I just want to say I appreciate everything that you do and that what you're trying to do. It's an honor to
Hmm.
come on and honestly, I'm second generation cocker. I
Okay.
started going when I was back when it was legal days. I was going
Hmm.
to Texoma. I was probably like 16 years old. And
Okay.
I went with my dad a few times. He invited me over there. I didn't know anything about chickens at that time. I just went with
Right.
my dad for a vacation, and I went down there
Right.
and actually, just had a blast. You know what I mean? It was a
Right.
good time, and I seen all these people from back then. I mean, there was 270 entries at Texoma back when I was a kid. So, it was something exciting
Right.
to me. I seen all these people and I was like, wow, this is really cool. So, you know, that's how I
Right.
originally got started. And then I started going to my dad's yard with him, and he had a small farm, but I started going over there and trying to learn, what
Hmm.
what what he was doing, and stuff like that.
Right. Right. So you said you was around 16 when you was going out to Texoma, huh?
Yes, sir.
So tell me something, Jerry. So you second generation, you went out there, your father exposed you to it. Obviously, you fell in love with it, which many people do with an open mind.
Absolutely.
Many people do go out there, fall in love. It's something special. There's no other sport like it. So you fell in love with it, and then you came back and started to go out to your dad's farm and stuff like that. So tell me, when did you acquire your first bird or your first set of birds?
Well, like I said, I just kind of started like going to my dad's farm, and my dad was like, "Hey, if you're really interested in it," he said, "Come on, jump on in." My dad, we started mainly with the Cardinal Club Kelsos. I mean,
Okay.
I can't give enough credit to that line of fowl. I mean, ever since I seen them, I fell in love with them, and honestly, back in the day, I mean, they're just you couldn't get no better.
Hmm.
I love them. The dark wine red, white streamer, yellow legged, beautiful roosters with tons of ability, and that's what
Right.
basically my first rooster I fell in love with.
Wow, wow, wow. So that's what you fell in love. So that is awesome. So, obviously we're gonna fast forward or tell me this. You said you were 16 then. You started out with
Yes.
the Cardinal Kelsos. Okay. So tell me this. As time go on, when did you start to kind of acquire your own little farm?
It was probably, I say I was probably about maybe 22, 22
Okay.
years old. My dad had like I said, it wasn't a big farm. I used to go
Right.
there and help him out a lot. And when you're young like that, you start thinking you know a little more than your dad does or whatever. You're like, hey, I think I'm gonna try to get some of my own birds. And he's like, go
Right.
ahead, try it out. So, I got my own place, but I got the Cardinals though. You know what I mean? I got some from him, and then I went
Uh-huh.
and got some hatch roosters from a good friend of mine named Sergio, and
Okay.
it was the old I think it was the old Cedar Creek blood. So,
Okay.
I started with that, and I just kind of messed around with it. I didn't really know what I was doing at first, but
Hmm.
I took a rooster and a couple of hens and I threw them in the pen, and I was like, "Hey, let's get started."
I hear that, man. I'm pretty sure many of the people that's watching today can definitely relate to that story. On two points. One, when you think you know more than the person that brought you in, and you just getting started. I think we all suffer from that at one point or the other. And then
Right.
just taking some roosters and throwing them together and say, hey, let's get it together, let's get it rolling. So I'm pretty sure many of the people that's watching can definitely relate to that. So tell me this, Jerry. So we're going to fast forward a little bit. Obviously now you're a lot more established. You're very successful in your own right. So let's just fast forward now to kind of where you are today. First, I'd like to know, do you still have that same blood that you started off with back when you were, from your 16 to the 22-year age frame?
We still have the Cardinal Club blood, but
Okay.
it's had some things added to it here and there,
Hmm.
and we lost some of it. You know how things happen on a rooster yard. I mean, it just happens sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes, owls get you, hawks, whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sometimes you end up losing some, and you gotta go search for the old stuff.
Hmm.
We got them coming still pretty decent. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I like them. You know what I mean? They've always been my favorite roosters. And then, of course, my son Jonathan, he got involved with me. You know what I mean? Just like I did with
Hmm.
my dad, and he
Hmm.
liked black roosters. Okay, I we didn't know anything about no black roosters, but
Right.
I went ahead and ordered some from a friend of mine, and we got them. We got some pure racy mugs, and
Okay.
that's what our blacks are. I think you've seen some of them every once in a while,
I seen them. They're
but
beautiful. Yeah, they're
yeah,
definitely beautiful. All the birds that I have seen from y'all guys
right,
are to me are beautiful. That's one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on the show, man, because I'm very, very impressed in the health, the performance, all of that. I didn't see them on more than one occasion. Um, so it's like I say, very, very impressive. I think y'all guys are doing a great job with whatever y'all guys are doing and how y'all guys are doing. And that's why I got you on the show, so you can kind of share what you're doing, and hopefully
yes,
somebody
sir,
watching kind of pick up some of that stuff and maybe be able to apply some of it to their program. Um, so y'all guys got the racy mugs now, right?
yes,
Y'all
sir.
got the so right now, how many bloodlines are y'all guys working with right now?
We're working with basically four bloodlines. We got racing mugs, we got
Mm-hmm.
Harold Brown hatches,
Mm-hmm.
we got some green-legged gray blood, and then of course we got the Kelsos.
Okay. Okay. So you got about four. So you have four bloodlines right now. So since
Yes,
we're
sir.
talking about bloodlines, let's go ahead and I guess stay on this topic and kind of talk about some breeding. With your four bloodlines, do you breed them within a self, or do you cross over? Between. Do you have those four bloodlines so you can make crosses, or are you being just performing your breeding within each individual bloodline?
Well, you see, a lot of people may not believe this, but to me, well-bred chickens can show straight bred. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's no
Mm-hmm.
pure chickens. I just want to put that out there. You know what I mean? Is
Mm-hmm.
there's really no purebred chickens. Okay, to me, in my experience and knowledge that I've learned from the people that I've been around, a
Mm-hmm.
breeder makes a line as good as he can make it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you went and researched all the different bloodlines from the Kelsos and what they actually are, a lot of them are three-way blends that were bred and maintained as a family. So
Mm-hmm.
can you say you got pure
Mm-hmm.
chickens? I ain't gonna say they're pure, but they're as pure as what they're made to be.
They Jerry pure. That's what I always call them.
Right.
They're
You know what I
your
mean?
pure.
So,
They're Nitrous Gamefarm pure, and that's what you're pretty much saying. And we have multiple guests come on and say the same identical thing.
yeah.
About that topic of being pure is exactly what you just explained. It's the breeder's version of pure. You ain't talking about
Right.
the genetic purity of a rooster. He just saying these are my pure races. These are my pure. You know what I mean? They're your pure
Right.
birds,
Well,
regardless.
see, your
So.
your your goal as a breeder is to make the best show fowl that you can.
Hmm.
If you want to be successful. Okay,
Hmm.
if you're in it just to have a little fun, hey, do what you want. But what
Right.
I'm saying is, like, whenever your goal as a breeder is to make a line better than what they were
Right.
when you got them.
Hmm.
You don't want to get something and just stick with it the whole time. You know what I mean? If
Hmm.
you can improve it, improve them. I
Hmm.
mean, that's what I wanted to get out to, a lot of the beginners. Don't get caught up on the word pure. you know
Right.
the birds are going to be as well maintained as you put the time in them. I mean, you
Yep.
have to you have to be, you got to have a good eye, and but
Hmm.
whatever is, how can I say it, whatever suits your needs. You know what I mean? You have to
Hmm.
be honest with yourself. That's one thing.
Hmm.
That's one thing that I try to tell a lot of people. That's some really good advice for the beginners. is don't ever lie to yourself about your own fowl. That's the worst
Right.
thing you can do. You know, you have to be honest with yourself and grade them accordingly. You know, if they need
Right.
something, you know, just admit it. Be like, hey, you know, this bird lacks a little power. So guess
Right.
what? You need to try to breed something that's got power, breed it into there, and then try to breed it back out and see if it maintains those genetics.
Right. Right. And that's pretty much so basically, and I agree with everything you just said. And so basically, with your philosophy, you pretty much just breed your birds within each family and just kind of keep them like that because they're able to perform at the level that you need to perform with without crossing them over within those four different families. Correct?
Exactly. A lot of people's told me. I mean, a lot of my friends they tell me, "Man, have you crossed the Cardinals with the mugs?" And I'm like, "No, I
Hmm.
haven't." You know,
Hmm.
it's not that I ain't seen none that might be successful like that, but to me, I like to keep them kind of bred straight the way I have them. But I add a little few things here and there. You know what I mean? If I think they need something, but if they got it all, then why add something?
Yep. That's that. I mean that's exactly right. And I always say too, with the breeding, before you do any crosses, before you even think about crossing anything, you should be able to replicate what you already have. If you can't
Exactly.
replicate what you already have, what are you doing crossing anything? Like you can't even reproduce what you already have, and you tell them, "Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and cross this with this." So if it gets out of control and it don't work, then how do you get back to the original if you was
Yeah,
never able to produce the original? You know what I'm saying? So
absolutely.
yeah,
Well, I
so
mean,
that's
you
actually
know,
great to hear, dude.
yeah, that's a real good point, Jim, because you know, a lot of times people get you know, let's say they get a trio from a big name breeder. And the
Hmm.
birds might be really good, but a lot of times the mistake that people made, and honestly, I've done it myself when I was younger. You know, you
Right.
get a nice trio, you spend some good money on them, you get them in. What's the first thing you do? Oh, I'm gonna take this and cross it with my Cardinals. You know what I mean? Well, this man's been working on his fowl for 25 years, and you're gonna take him and breed something else into him. You just cut your chances about down to 25%. You know.
Dude, that is so exactly right, man. That is so exactly right. And if people don't agree with that from that angle, then look at it from the other angle that I just said. If it doesn't work, then how do you get back to the original if you was never able to reproduce it? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So even if they disagree with what you're saying, Jerry, they gotta still take in consideration. Okay, how about I do go buy something from that breeder and then I cross it? Okay, now it doesn't work. So how do you get back to the drawing board when you never was able to create the drawing board? You know what I mean? So
Right.
that's funny, and I think we have all done it. It could be a lack of impatience or a lack of
Yeah. Every
imagination.
every once in a while, though, you might get lucky and hit a nick, but you got to be lucky.
Well, and you know what? And I don't discourage the experimentation. What I do say is before you go and experiment, make sure you can reproduce or replicate what you have. So if the experiment does not work, you can get back to the drawing board and start all over. If you can't replicate what you started off with, if that cross doesn't work, you're just lost in the sauce. Like you don't even have nothing to get back to because you was never able to reproduce it. So I hear you.
Yes,
It's two
sir.
things, and
And like I
it's two
said,
things. And go ahead, Jared.
you know, more importantly, you know, even my buddy, your buddy Anthony over there, he had a good point last week. You know, more importantly, the reason why if you order a trio from somebody and you get
Right.
it, the best thing to do is to breed them together first. Okay, to even see if that cock and those hens that you got are producing. Because if
Mm-hmm.
they're not producing, it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that they're bad fowl. I mean, it just
Mm-hmm.
means that you know, maybe that rooster or those hens are not producing what you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for. You know,
Right.
so you have to figure that out first before you can start trying to add stuff in. Like you said, you know, give it a chance. You know the
Mm-hmm.
people, like I said, you know, a lot of people they've been breeding their birds for a very long time. And when you
Right.
order a trio from them, you know, my advice would be to the beginners, you know, just breed that trio together within itself and see how it does. You know.
Right. Right. That's some great information, and that's something that you just have always. Well, you probably learned. Did you just learn to practice that, or that's kind of was your mindset from the beginning? Like, did you learn that from your dad, or is that something you developed over the years to have that type of mindset when it comes to breeding?
No, well, I kind of learned the hard way. That's what
Okay.
I'm saying, but honestly, I got lucky with the two lines that I really like, the mugs and the Kelsos. We've made some crosses with them. Made hatch Kelsos and made a few Kelso roundheads and stuff like that with some other friends of mine, and we tried them out, but they just weren't as good as the straight ones. So I got lucky in getting a family of fowl that really showed good, bred straight, however they were, just breeding nieces to the uncles and stuff like that. You don't want to breed too close. I know some people, when you start talking about inbreeding and stuff like that, boy, things get real thick, but some birds, I'll be honest with you, I've seen some birds that friends have had, that brother sister mated and stuff like that, and man, they could handle it. You know what I mean? They're just bred right, and that's kind of one. Remember, I talked to you a little bit about it on the phone, but we were talking about 5 points that will help an individual become a successful, breeder or shower of fowl, whatever he wants to do. And the number one thing in my experience that I've learned throughout all this time, the people that were doing good, all the big names and stuff, they all had one thing. Well, they had several things in common, but the main thing they had in common is they had well-bred fowl. Okay. If you don't have the bloodline, which is number one, it doesn't matter how healthy you get them. If the blood is not there and they can't perform, you're gonna be 50-50, Now, second of all, once you get the bloodline and you've tested them and they're solid and what you're looking for, it automatically goes to number 2, which is health. If you got well-bred fowl, but you don't have health, once again, you're gonna be 50-50. You'll be 50-50 in. But if you get well-bred fowl, you put your time in 365 days a year. That means clean water, you know what I mean? Fresh feed, move them around on the, to fresh ground every couple of weeks if you can, But, health is I can't stress how important enough health is. Health plays a big part in gameness too. You can take two breeders. I mean, you can take two people that buy from the same breeder, for an example. One guy 5 years down the road is knocking the doors down, taking names. This other guy, he's got birds that are running off, and then then they'll badmouth the breeder. Oh, well, these birds ain't no good, but they, something went wrong somewhere where they didn't take good care of the roosters. You understand? And if your health is not there, the gameness will diminish.
Yep. I mean, I'm definitely I'm definitely a fan of that logic there. That's and I know everybody has their own opinion about it, and let everybody think what they think. But I'm definitely a fan of that. I agree with that. I agree. Health is people always got these different scenarios where they'll come and say, "Oh no, I know this guy who's his bird always drunk green water and drunk out of mud puddles and blah 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 blah." Hey, you know what I'm saying? That I'm not doubting it. I'm not saying it never happened. But if you take 100 of those situations like that, I promise you, like you said, if you got guys who are getting fowl from the same identical breeder, the same genetic space, one's taking good care of his fowl, the other one's not. You take 100 cases like that, I'm pretty sure the ones who's taking good care of their birds going to have a higher percentage out of that 100 than the guy over here whose birds is drinking out of mud puddles. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying the mud puddle guy's not going to ever win. I'm not saying that, and that's where I think guys get a little confused, because they try to take these exceptions and make it the standard. It's called an exception for a reason. That means it's not really the standard. It means it's kind of like almost rare, don't hardly happen. But some people want to take these exceptions and make them the standard. And then at the end of the day, I just think they really just lying to themselves. So, but go ahead and continue, Jerry. That's so you got health. I mean, you got genetics, number 1. You got health, number 2. And what's the third one?
Number 3 is conditioning. You've got to learn a good program you can put your roosters on to put a little air in them, get them strong. But a lot of it has to do with like I said, you won't believe it, but mental attitude is a big plus. You know what I mean? That helps the
Right.
rooster. And to me, for us, what we do is we put our hands on our roosters a lot. Okay, I mean I'm on a more or less a rotation type deal. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
rotate to different spots. I'll
Mm-hmm.
have some fly pins, I'll have some scratch pins, I'll have tie cords, and I'll
Mm-hmm.
have some Mexican fly pins that
Mm-hmm.
kind of set up close together where the roosters will run a little bit. So whenever you're putting your hands on your roosters every day, they get used to you handling them. And
Mm-hmm.
and to me, a rooster that is mentally alert and that is mentally relaxed with you holding them,
Right.
he's
Right.
got a little bit of advantage because he's not so spooked out, or how
Right.
some people, I hate to say it, but there's a lot of people that make roosters really jittery and nervous, grabbing them out of pens and being rough with them. And take your
Right.
time with the roosters.
Right.
You got time to, I tell you one thing that I do. I mean, a lot of people probably do it, but just, in case they don't know, take some old tie cords that are wore out or whatever, and you cut them in half and leave them about 2 foot of length. And I put them on the legs of the roosters. And when I'm rotating them, if I got one that's a little wild, I got that tie cord on him. When I go in the pen, I can just grab the cord and pull him to me. You see what I'm saying? Instead of chasing the
That's
rooster down, that
right.
helps you out.
That's a good tip right there. That's a really, really good tip. So you said you take old tie cords, leftover tie cords, and you put, you cut a piece of it, like you said, about a 2 foot piece, and put that on there, and pretty much catch the rooster from that. Then trying to have your hand all in there and got to, because I
Yeah,
see a
that's
lot of
right.
that. You know what I mean?
That's
And a lot
right.
of times, yeah. So that's a method that you use. You just put a piece of tie cord on one that's a little bit jittery, and use the tie cord as a way to catch them versus doing I call it like the Houdini. Now you see me, now you don't. Hand catcher
Yeah.
technique to catch to catch a rooster.
Yeah,
The,
because if you
the,
start doing that much, you ain't gonna need much. As soon as you open that door, they're gonna be flying at you. You don't want that.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
But I mean,
That's
in all honesty, too, I mean, there is some birds that no matter what you do, they just don't tame down, and
right,
we cull those birds. Okay, like if they can't be tamed,
right.
there's no, you're wasting your time and their time.
Got you, got you. So that's one, and like you say, some of them just is not going to be tamed at all.
That's right.
So we got genetics, we got health, we got conditioning. So what is number four?
It's conditioning, and then it goes to pointing. Okay,
Okay,
now this story, this subject right here, you could spend a whole interview on pointing.
right.
Okay, but
Yeah, well, we already know that's one of the hottest, most debated topics in the history of game foul, and everybody got their way, and their way is the best way, and is guaranteed, and all this and that. So, well, go
yeah,
ahead, Jerry, share us some of what's your philosophy when it comes to pointing.
my philosophy, first of all, if when you give a rooster, less feed or more feed, or egg white or this or that, I mean, first of all, you have to know, why are you giving it to him? What's it supposed to
Mm,
do? You see what I'm
mm,
saying? A lot of people just listen to their buddy down the road that said, "Hey, give him some egg white and corn chop, and corn chopping for 3 days straight or whatever." You know what I'm saying? Well, you see, you've got roosters. If you think about it, just think about it. Use some common sense right here. If you can go out to the tie cord yard and pull a bird off the cord that's been fed regular yard feed and a whole handful the day before,
right.
and you can take him and spar him, and he'll spar like an ace.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you take that same bird, change his feet up, box him up for 3 days, black him out or whatever you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and then when you take him to the show, he don't show very good, and you're like,
Right.
"Man, what happened? That bird was an ace when I sparred him last."
Right.
Well, guess
Right.
what? You just changed his whole environment, though. You change, if you're
Right.
not used to doing that all the time, you know, you changed the feed,
Mm-hmm.
you blacked him out, you know, you just left him alone in the box. You see, it's different. You know, when a rooster's out on the cord, he's walking around in natural. I'm all about natural, Jim. Everything
Right.
natural. I mean, to me, you know, I mean, I've gone to shows back in the day when it was legal, and I take my roosters and you know, I drop them out on the grass.
Jared, hold on 1 second. Excuse me 1 second, guys. I have a situation. Hold on 1 second. Don't go nowhere.
Okay.
I cannot believe this.
What do they need from me? No, you're asking because I took about 30, 45 minutes for the interview. Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to take, but if I have to, we'll move. How's the charge? 86. I'm good on the charge. Yeah, but you got to make sure too you're not washing it off too.
Guys, I'm so sorry about that. I am so sorry, but my wife was calling me and something going on with my granddaughter. That's the reason I ran upstairs. I'm so sorry. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? All right, guys, I'm back. Oh man. Okay, Jared. Very, very sorry about that.
That's okay.
Look at Jay Sanchez telling some Peter's at Jim's door. Nah, Peter ain't at my door. Okay, Jerry. So let's start where we left off. So we talked about we were on pointing right now, right? And I apologize once again, guys, for having to step out, but my grandbaby was doing a little bit too much hollering. But go ahead, guys. Let's finish. Go ahead and talk about the pointing.
Well, on like I said, I was just saying that a lot of guys will completely change up the roosters feeding and just, you know, they just change things up the last 3 days because, you know, why? Because maybe somebody told them to or whatever. You know, to me, my advice would be to a lot of beginners, you know, if you're trying to learn how to feed or you're trying to you know, condition some of your own birds or whatever, just keep the feed the same feed you've been feeding them. All you got to do is just add a little corn chop to it the last couple of days to where the last feeding is like at least 50%.
Right.
And now depending, you know, I understand there's people that live in drier climates, there's people that live in wet climates, you know, so you really have to pay attention to the weather. It's very important. Very important. You know, and if do you have access to a cock house? You know, are the roosters going to be in a controlled environment, or are you going to be showing outside? You know what I mean? Where, you don't have those luxuries. You know what I mean? There's 2 or 3 different things that you got to keep into consideration. But like I said, most people, I try to tell them to keep it natural. All you got to do, I mean, you can take it with a grain of salt, but I'm just trying to help some of the younger guys, just try it out. Just keep the feed natural that you've been feeding them. Just add a little corn chop to it. And then the last feeding, of course, you want to cut the feed a little bit. They don't have to be bone empty. Back in the old timers, they'll tell you, oh, if they don't feed the bird for 2 days before they show them. I mean, that, we don't have we don't do that no more. I don't, anyways.
Right.
But I like to give the bird, you do got to cut the feed a little bit. I mean, it's just common sense, but don't do too much. Don't make too many changes. You know what I mean? The less changes you make, the more chances you have of the bird, performing like he's supposed to. And I guess the most important people want to know about the water, the humidity, you know what I mean? The how do you control the moisture and this and that, the other. Well, like I said, I'm gonna do it from a common sense standpoint. How about you, Jim? Do you know when you're thirsty and when you're not thirsty?
I mean, I definitely do. And one thing too, when it comes to that, I think guys got to also be conscious of how much water do they birds consume. All birds don't consume the same amount of water, just like humans. You know what I mean? Right. And some guys can go, from the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon before they sip anything. Some people got to be sipping all day, all throughout the day. And I think that goes back to, like I talked about, doing the 362. If you're paying attention to doing what you're supposed to do during the 362, you'll have an idea of how much water that bird consumes. And not only just from a pointing aspect, but also from a health aspect. If you don't know how much water your bird normally consumes, and intake of water a lot of times is the first sign of sickness, determining on how much water they intake.
Absolutely.
Right. So again, it goes back. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing them 362, you should know how much water that bird normally consumes on this type of day, on that type of day. You know what I mean? Like, you should know how long it takes your bird to pass his feed. Some guys don't know none of that. Like, they don't have the slightest idea of how much water their bird usually consume. They don't know how long it takes them to pass their feed. But yet they calling Freddie down the street to ask him what I should be doing on the last 3. Like, dude, you already lost. I mean, to me, it's just a gamble. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have the slightest idea what's going on. Like, does he drink 4 ounces, 6 ounces? How much water does he drink every day? You know what I'm saying? And if you're getting to that point where you're trying to compete, maybe you might not know that about every single bird on your yard, but I think that should be a part of the selection process. And going through your keep, you should have an idea of how much water that bird normally consumes. If you don't, how do you know to give them some, to take some away, or to whatever? Like, how do you know how to adjust if you don't even know what the starting point is? You know what I mean?
Right. Well, there's several different ways, like I said, that people do it, and there's in one way. There's, like I said, there's more than one way to skin a cat. That scenario right there. But if you're living in a drier climate, of course, it's best to have a little moisture in them. Okay, and they need moisture in their muscle tissue to perform correctly, just like you would. If you're out in a drier climate, you're going to get thirsty faster.
That's right.
That's just the way it is. That's just the way our bodies are built. If you're in a wet climate, you might not need much water. You know what I mean? At all. Okay. But me, what I do, like I said, I think a rooster knows better when he's thirsty than what we do. Okay. We want to try to make, well, I'm going to give him this and take that away and do that and that. Well, if they're healthy and they're well taken care of, they'll take a sip of water if they're thirsty. Now, if he's there dipping his head in the water, like he's dying of thirst, well, for one thing, you ought to have enough common sense to throw him out, because your chances of being successful with him is going to be slim to none.
Right.
So, like I said, my advice is, if you got good roosters, they're on a good worming program, they're healthy, their digestive tract is working. And I'll go ahead and give a lot of people might know it, but I'll give a tip to the younger guys that might not know it.
Mm-hmm.
You can buy a little bag of acidified copper sulfate.
Okay.
You know what acidified copper sulfate is. It's a little blue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little blue powder. It costs about $8 to $10 for a bag of it, and you run a little bit of that. Just follow the directions. Run that in the waters on the birds, and it's really good for their digestive. It helps them. I mean, if you can give it to them, you watch 2 or 3 days later, their droppings will be right. They'll just be dropping right, just out on the cords. You know what I mean? It just helps them.
Mm.
Part of the health program.
Right, right. That's a good tip right there. I know somebody who uses it. That's why I kind of learned of it. And I was like, what is that right there? I actually know a couple of people on farm visits. I was like, what is that right there? And they explained to me what you just explained to me. So that's how I know about it. I had never known about it until I did a farm visit and seen it.
Right.
And then I seen it somewhere else, and then I seen it somewhere else. So I probably done seen it about 3 different places. And it's all for the same reason, what you pretty much just said. So
Right.
so we got genetics, we got health, we got conditioning, we got pointing. So what is the last one of the 5-point system?
The last one's going to be handling or pitting.
Got you.
I mean,
Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yes, sir. There's I'm sure everybody's seen it, you know what I mean, back at the shows when it was legal. Some
Mm-hmm.
guys just know how to take care of their roosters, and they
Mm-hmm.
can win a blue ribbon on their abilities to take care of the bird and know what to do when they need to do it. Okay. And then
Right.
everybody's seen people that have gone in there, and they got guys in there that don't really know what they're doing with the bird, and they end up
Right.
losing a fight with a live rooster. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because just some certain things but it all comes from experience, Jim. You know what I mean? Everybody's gonna mess up. I mean, I've messed
Yep.
up a bunch of them, believe that.
Right.
But you know, I've learned. The most important thing to do is when you get in there too, don't be paying attention to all the crowd around you. You got to be paying attention to your rooster.
Right.
You got to pay attention to your rooster and the other rooster.
Mm-hmm.
Look at them, be paying attention, see how they're acting. You know how you can tell when a rooster is needs attention and when he don't.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes, that's
like I
exactly
said,
right.
those are the 5 points though, Jim, that I believe if you'll write that down, or whoever it is will write it down, and really kind of look at it and be honest with yourselves, and establish that bloodline. And then once you establish that bloodline, health, 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 health.
Right.
Cannot stress the importance of health.
Right.
And then conditioning. Conditioning
Mm-hmm.
comes, you'll get better as you go along. Depends on who's willing to help you out.
Right.
You might get lucky, and you were next door neighbors with Oscar Akins. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
he happened to show you the correct way right off the bat. But there's a lot of people that they don't have nobody like that. You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
do you read? I'll tell you what. I'm going to give credit to who I learned a lot from when I very first started out in the early '90s. I ordered the Charlie Carr's Keep, actually.
Oh,
This
okay.
Mr. Charlie Carr, he had some really good information in there, and it was good common sense. You know what I mean? And of course, I've learned and tweaked my own throughout the years. You know what I mean? But Charlie Carr has a really good keep, and I just he's really given a lot of good information in the old Gamecock books. His articles and stuff are very informative.
Yeah,
If you
he's a
really
very
want to learn,
knowledgeable person for sure. That dude's a
yes, sir.
very knowledgeable person.
Yes, sir. But like I said, I've learned, I learned a lot from that. And honestly, just from reading, if you want to educate yourself on something, you have to read,
So go ahead, Jared. Repeat that one more time. So hopefully some of these guys will understand. You said what? If you want to get better, you got to do what?
You have to read and educate yourself on the subject. Hey,
Dude,
you'd
you
be
are
surprised.
preaching to the choir, man. I don't know what some of these guys don't get it. You can take 30 years to learn something by just straight experience, or you can put your head in some books or articles or whatever the case is, do some reading to give you a concept of something, and it can like shave years, like 50% of that time
Right.
it would take you to learn that. If you read, man, a lot of times it will shave at least 50% of the time it would take you to learn it on your own. Because sometimes learning everything from experience, you still never get it right. Like you
Right.
still never get it right. And that's where that reading aspect coming in. Even if you don't do every single thing that you read in that article, sometime that article will ignite a light bulb in your head and say, you know what? I never thought about that, but let me try this. You know what I'm saying? Reading is very powerful, man.
Right.
I mean, it's
That's right.
very, very powerful.
Knowledge is power. You can believe that.
That's exactly right, dude. That's exactly right. So, but this has been great. So, listen, you talked about your bloodlines. I think the 5 point system is, I think you hit that on the head, dude. I think everybody, I ain't gonna say everybody, but whoever, especially if you knew, that's something you should definitely write down because that 5 point system covers the game. You know what I'm saying? It covers
And
the whole, those 5 bullet points right there covers the whole game. Now it's up to you to determine how deep you're going to go into each of those points. But those 5 points you just laid out covered from A to Z. You know what I mean? Covered from A to Z. And depending on how good you become at each of those 5 points will determine your success level. But whoever taught you those 5 points that's solid. Them 5 points
yeah,
is
I mean
definitely solid.
and let me say one thing too, to the younger guys out there just coming up and just starting, they have an advantage in one way. There
Mm-hmm.
is a lot of well-bred chickens that are being let out over the last 10 years that when I
Right.
started, you couldn't get those roosters. Okay, when it became illegal in all the states right there, a lot of people started letting some brood fowl, go because
Mm-hmm.
they just didn't want to mess with it no more. But back in
Mm-hmm.
the early 90s and stuff like it was not easy to get good chickens like that.
Yep.
So they have an advantage with all the big breeders out there and the small breeders too. I want to give credit to all the small breeders because, man, I mean, like you said, that's the backbone of the sport. You know what I mean? I
Yep.
mean, there's people from here to Kentucky to Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee,
Yep.
Mississippi, you name it. Somewhere there's somebody got 20, 30 roosters out there crowing and they're proud of them. You know what I mean? And
They
guess what?
proud, and I can tell you, that's Jerry. You exactly right. I do a lot of traveling, brother, and I'm gonna tell you, man. I find a lot of gorillas on them small farms, man. I'm telling it does not have the fun, and I have said this publicly time and time and time again because I have seen it. Not something I read out of a book or heard from an old war story. I'm telling you, I have seen it with my own eyes. I have seen plenty places. Now they might not have a big yard, but boy, they got some gorillas on that yard. I promise you that they got some gorillas on that yard, and you don't even know their name. Dang, you know what I mean? Like they not famous. They never won a World Slasher Cup. They never been to the Philippines or nothing like that. But those guys got some gorillas on those tie cords on that yard. And
Right.
again, I think that's something that we need to, make sure you drive the point home is you cannot judge a person based on the size of their yard. You can't think because it's big, they know everything, because it's small, they know nothing. You can't think because it's big, they got a bunch of junk, but if it's small, they got some good ones. There's no stereotype. You know what I'm saying? Good birds are where you find them. And I
That's
always
what
say
that's
just
what
don't discount anybody's situation or size, and don't be so stereotyped that, oh, if he's been in 30 years, he must be right. No, 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 not always. You got guys out there that have been in it 10, 12 years, man, and extremely tough.
and that's right.
Extremely
And
tough.
exactly right. And that's what I wanted to say too is that that's one of the things I love about the sport that we're in right here is that money doesn't always buy you success. Okay, in this
Mm-hmm.
sport right here, it's whoever puts the time in who's going to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just the way it is. Knowledge, time, effort equals success. Not
Yep.
just you know how it is. A lot of people, they start out with with big money and they think they can just go buy
Mm-hmm.
this, that, the other, but they don't put the time in them. They go to the derbies and they get smashed. You know what I mean? I
It,
mean, let's just be honest. You know,
yep.
and then you got
That's the truth.
some dudes going there, youngsters, like you said, maybe, just been showing maybe 5 years, 5, 6 years going there and clean house, I mean,
I see it, brother. I'm telling you, I have seen it, and I have seen it more than once. And that's why I say keeping an open mind and stand away from a lot of stereotypes, in my opinion, gives you an advantage. Because a lot of guys miss a lot of opportunities because they don't feel as though, oh, how long? 7 years? Oh no, it ain't. You just don't realize. I mean, you don't know, first of all, what that guy done learned in 7 years. You don't know what he has experienced in 7 years, and you don't even know what he started with at the beginning of 7 years. So you can't discount somebody because they haven't been in the game 30 years, if they not second generation and they don't come from here, or you never heard of their foul. Dude, I'm telling you, man, those are the guys you got to watch because they pop out of nowhere. And I ain't even gonna say they pop out of nowhere. Nobody gives them no attention. Everybody discounts them until they clean house. And then all of a sudden, it's like, uh-oh, you know what I mean? I should have discounted that dude. I'm like, yeah, you probably shouldn't have. So what you're saying is exactly right, man. And I don't mean to, I'm not trying to rub anybody the wrong way or try to offend anybody, but you just cannot put a label and say, just because somebody's been doing something for 30 years, they're better than anybody else who's been doing it for less. That's just my whole point.
That's true. That's true. I agree with you on that.
Right.
But like I said, in this sport that we do, it's about 365 a year, just like what what you're talking about. It's you got to be out there. They got to have fresh, clean, fresh. To me, they need fresh, clean water, a good worming program. Yep. Be moved on some fresh. You got to have decent ground. And one thing I wanted to say to all the beginners, but something that I wish I'd have learned, before you even get any chickens, spend your money on a good fence and a good chicken dog, okay? Because without that, you're gonna go and order a $1,500 trio from somebody after you done saved up all your money. You'll have him at the house for 2 days, and then he'll be coon food. You know what I mean? So that's a big mistake that I made. I've lost many good chickens because not having the proper kind of fencing and all that stuff is very important.
Jerry, you are so right. What'd you say? They're gonna be coon food, huh?
Yeah. Gotta have a good dog, gotta have a good fence.
That's right, brother. And you know what, man? I think, again, the expensive trios is probably the last part that when you first start out. And again, I know you definitely want to start off with the best blood that you can afford or gain access to. It ain't always got to buy. Like some guys say, the best birds they ever had was gifted to them, and I understand that. But on a whole, those ain't that many people getting fowl gifted to them like that. You know what I mean? Most people are buying good fowl. So before you go out there and buy that good fowl, like Jerry just said, get your setup right. Make sure you got the right type of pins. Make sure you got enough pins. Before you start breeding, make sure you got enough space. Make sure you got a good fence and a good dog, because like Jerry just said, they ain't gonna be nothing but coon food, and you don't want to spend 6 months, 7 months raising 100 stags, and then all of a sudden 30, 40 of them is coon food in one night. So it's other aspects besides the 5 points that Jerry just said. There's other aspects that you got to do prior to that, which is getting that yard set up right. Then we talk about the genetics.
Yeah, that's before you even start with chickens. Yeah, you got to get a fence. Yes, sir.
That's right. So Jerry, since you covered that, I mean, this has been some really, really good topics, brother. I mean, some great topics, some great information. So let's move into how you select your broodstock. And let's start with the cock, and then we'll talk about the hen. How you select them, what type of things you look for, what is your criteria? And let's start with the cock.
For me, it's the main thing that I look for in a cock is, of course, number one for me is attitude. Mm-hmm. Okay. Once you got some good blood, let's just say, for example, you hatch out of a trio and you raise up 7 brothers. Mm-hmm. Bred the same brother. I mean, out the same rooster, single mated to the same hen. All right, you raise 7 brothers up. Okay. When you're watching them as they grow up, there's naturally just going to be a boss. One of them's going to be the boss. There's one that'll have that extra little bit of plumage. You know, the one that he'll stand a little taller, or you know, and then when they get older and you start pinning them up, you'll just notice, you know, well, I notice because I look at my roosters all the time. You know, I walk through pens, and some birds, it doesn't matter what day it is, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing or whatever, when you walk by the pen, they'll just cut a wing to you, or, you know, just, you know, jump up to the roost pole and pop their wings. I mean, he's letting you know something, that he's an alpha, you know what I mean? He's an alpha male, you know? And I've had people tell me, some of the old timers too, they told me, well, you know how I pick a brood cock? And I'm like, no, sir. He says, well, he says, I'll turn, you know, I have some roosters out on the cords. He says, and I'll turn some hens loose, and they watch the hens. And he says, the ones that the hens go to the most, he says, they know more than we do which one's the dominant one. And I'm like, I thought about it for a second, and I said, you know what? That might be right. I mean, I haven't done that, but some guys have, you know what I mean? But me, I like to choose a rooster that's had a good attitude all his life, never been sick. You know, some birds get a little sick here and there, and you got to doctor them. You know, a broodcock to me is a bird that stays healthy. He has a good appetite, good conformation, and good attitude. You know, I never breed, you know, just you know, there might be a yard burning ace, but if he's a mean rooster, if he's mean all the time, I will not breed a mean rooster. I'm not doing that. Yeah. So, you know, for me, like I said, it's going to be number one, attitude. And, you know, really basically the attitude kind of covers everything to me. You know what I mean? It's got to have, he's got to have the attitude, got to act like a brood cock, you know, got to be a dominant rooster with a good attitude all the time. After that, you know, of course, you don't want no blemishes on them. And I like good plumage. It ain't got to be just dragging the ground, but I like a bird with good plumage. Okay. I don't like squirrel tails, though. You know, some of them got that high tail. It's like almost touching their head. I don't like that. I stay away from that. You know, even though he might be a good rooster, but I don't want to breed that. I want to breed one that's got a nice looking arch to his tail, and it drags to the ground. Just good conformation, nice dark red eyes, if possible. I don't like yellow-eyed. I don't like breeding yellow-eyed roosters. They ain't saying that they ain't no good, but for breeding purposes, I don't want to breed a light-eyed chicken. Me.
And Jerry, tell me this: have you always been like that when it comes to the eyes, or is it something that you from experience that moved you away from the color of the eyes, or is it just something just your personal preference?
Well, it's kind of from both. You know, it's just my personal preference. I like a real dark red eye on a rooster, and a lot of the game roosters that I've had come through my hands throughout the years were very, you know, had a nice dark red eye on them. I mean, so it's just something personal, like I said, you know, just my preference.
Right. And I just wanted you just to explain, because I'm pretty sure guys are probably thinking, well, why is it? Is it, you know what I'm saying? And so I just want you to go back into a little detail, and that's it. Okay, so how about a little bit more about the conformation? Do you like high station, medium? How you like your station? You know what I mean? You like long legs, or you know what I mean?
No, I like a medium station rooster.
Okay.
I do not like long-legged roosters. I'd rather have one a little on the short leg side than I would on just, you know, kind of built like a stork, if, you know, so to say. You know, some birds to me got too long legs, you know. You know, and the reason being I can't really get into that because, you know, I'd have to go into, you know, details about, you know, on you know.
But you just don't like the super longer legs.
Right. I prefer a medium station to medium high. You know, you want them in proportion. That goes with the conformation, in proportion with their body. You know how some birds, they look like they're just all legs. I don't like that, and it's hard for a rooster. I mean, it's hard for a rooster. I ain't gonna say it. Never mind. Anyway,
but you just don't like it. That's all we want to know. We just want to know, you know, what you like it, and what, you know, the reasons why you like it. But yeah, so you like more
I like a medium station bird. Yes, sir, with kind of a wide back and a nice head on him. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to be super small, but you don't want to breed a big old alligator head. You know what I mean? You're gonna have some more ugly chickens. You know, I like pretty roosters. I've seen some old game alligator headed chickens, you know what I mean? Game to the
Right,
core. But
right.
to me, my preference, I'm gonna breed a smaller headed rooster with, you know, nice proportion and medium to medium high station.
Got you. Got you. And you talked about the tail. So you covered the whole rooster. You talked about the station, the leg length. You like them with a big back on them. You don't like that big old head. You know what I mean? You don't like a squirrel tail. So that pretty much covers all the aspects that you look for in a rooster. So let's talk about, what you look for in your hens.
The hens is, basically the same thing on the conformation. I like them to have a dark eye. I like them to be, really small headed. And for them, to me, there's a lot of hens. You see, the hens, they're just naturally a little more wild than the roosters are. Okay, like like
Right.
when you go to catch them and stuff, But there is some hens that are really gentle, and I like a hen. I like a hen that has spurs. I
Mhm.
would prefer it. It's not like a non-spurred hen won't throw good chickens. It's just
Right.
that if I had my preference, I like a hen that has spurs.
Okay.
Uh, and I like her to have like I said, good plumage, and I like her wings to be nice and in proportion with her body, and medium to medium high station once again. And
Hmm.
to like when I grab them, what I mean, I don't like hens that
Yeah.
scream and holler. To me, I try to breed the hens that are a little more calmer and gentle.
Right. Right. That's what one of our other guests kind of said the same thing. He said the first time he'll deal with the hollering, but 3 or 4 times in, if she's still screaming and hollering like that, he passed on it. He not,
Yeah.
what I mean, breeding that's doing all that hollering. He didn't handle her 3 or 4 different times. So got you on that. So that's good. So you pretty much covered uh, breeding aspect of it as far as on the brood, the selection, how you determine on a cock in, on a hen side. You covered your 5 points. You covered your bloodlines and your methods and concepts on breeding. You believe in staying within the family if you can because you want to be able to replicate it. And they should be able to do good within that family. So we've been covering we already over an hour, man. I don't know if you know that, but we already over an hour, and we still got
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
more to
Like I
go.
said, we and I don't
Is
mind
your
coming
battery
back
still
on.
good? Because I like to keep on going.
No, yeah, I'm good. I got it plugged in. I'm on 84.
Okay, good. All right, so let's keep on going, man, because I got some other stuff. And we probably gonna go about another 15, 20 minutes because I want to bring you on again. We'll have a part 2 of this because this has been a really, really good interview. It's been a really
All
good
right.
interview, man. We getting a lot of comments, not so many as questions, but also comments. There's a lot of interaction going on in the comment section because of these topics that you're talking about, which I think is a great, great thing. They say you're bringing up some very, very valid points. So I think that's good. So now let's move a little bit towards, let's talk about now on your yard setup, which we know like that's step one. But now that we done talked about the breeding, the selection and stuff like that, let's talk about a little bit about the yard setup, and then we'll start talking about, as far as the biddies, hatching, natural hatch, incubators and stuff like that. So in your yard, do you use mainly tie cords, pins? You know what I mean? How do you kind of set your yard setup?
Oh yeah, we got we use tie cords, fly pins,
Okay.
Mexican pins. We got some breeding pins set up. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Just basic stuff like that. I mean, it's not rocket science on that. You know what I mean? You just want to have um, you know for what we do, we like to have it where we can move the birds from to about 3 or 4 different places, if we need to.
Got you. Got you.
Now if you're financially able to,
Hmm.
it's to me it would benefit you to separate the breeding from your conditioning. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, like have your stags and stuff raised on a certain part of your farm and the conditioning done at another part, like if you're able to, what I mean. If
Right.
not, it's not that big a deal. It's just that if
Right.
you can, it's better to have better to have them separated, to me.
Got you. Got you. So, now, I mean, that's a good point. So Jerry, tell us, since you brought that up, go into a little detail of why you prefer that. You don't got to be really detailed, but kind of why is that kind of your preference? Which it makes a lot of sense. But go ahead.
Well, for one reason, whenever you're raising stags, you know what I mean. Healthy stags need to be running loose. Okay.
Okay.
To build their muscles and do all that stuff, and to learn to get away from the varmints. They got to learn that stuff naturally, out in the natural. I'm all about natural. I don't really give my birds a lot of medicines or anything like that. I mean, of course, it's good to, you got to control coccidiosis. You got to control CRD. That's the main two. If you can control that, then your flock is going to be pretty healthy.
Right.
Pretty much.
Right.
You know what I mean? But anyways, the reason being though, Jim, is because when stags are running and stuff, or hens are running, just because over here where I'm at, it rains a lot. Okay. And sometimes when it rains, all chickens carry CRD. Don't let nobody tell you that they don't. All chickens carry CRD. Now, in the conditions that we are over here, and when it rains for 4 or 5 days straight, some of the birds are going to get a little bubbles in their eye or something sometimes. And if you don't catch it, and you got them running out there on loose on your yard, and you got keep roosters in the keep, and they run and drink out their water, guess what? Your keep roosters are going to get sick, or could possibly be sick, So that's why, it would benefit you if you could separate running fowl, that you're raising, from your conditioning fowl that are already cocks and healthy. Okay.
That's a great point, man. That's a really, really good point. That's a really good point. And I'm pretty sure of many people watching is feel the same way. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And like you say, with that rain, with that CRD, they mess around, drink out the water. And like you said, there's no guarantee. But again, it increases the chances, especially if they get exposed to it and it's already dormant in them. No, that's a good point, man. That's a good point. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons. Well, that is the reason why you kind of keep them separated if you can. If you have a setup or situation, if you can. Right. If you don't have a big setup, I still think you still can implement Jared's philosophy on maybe trying to keep them on one side of the yard versus, keep some on one group on one side of the yard and keep the other group on the other side of the yard. If you don't have, if you work with limited space, like Jared was saying, if you don't have the finance or whatever, you work with limited space, just try to keep them separate is Jerry's whole point. The best that you can, depending on your setup.
Yeah, especially the younger ones coming up, honestly, though, the drier you can keep them, the more dry you can keep them until they get, 3 months old, 4 months old, you know what I mean? You can turn them loose. But, up until then, the drier you can keep them, the more healthy they're going to be. You know what I mean? And then don't overcrowd. Overcrowding is probably the worst thing you can do. Don't overcrowd them. If you overcrowd them, they're going to get sick. I don't care. They're going to get sick no matter what you do.
And that goes back to, like you say, getting your yard set up right before you even get anything. So you can kind of determine on what you're going to be able to raise. So it goes back to your beginning thing that you were saying. So, no, that is right, man. That overcrowding causes nothing but problems. So look at your yard, see what you're able to maintain healthy, and before you start breeding, because some of us get excited, go out here and buy all these trios. The next thing you know, we breeding 6 different trios and got a quarter of an acre of land, and we breed 6 different trios, and we keep breeding them and collecting eggs and collecting eggs and collecting eggs. And next thing you know, when all that stuff hatch, they all smashed up in those brooders. They picking on each other. They dying from getting. It's just, man. To me, they're beginner mistakes. I know it definitely. I know because I have done it. Like, so excited, got some really good broodstock. Didn't want to wait. Is the impatience, I think, is what does it, man. Is your impatience. Like, you don't want to wait a whole nother breeding season. Like, nah, I need to get some on the ground now. And sometimes you really don't realize that maybe waiting one more season, you'll be in a better situation. Because sometimes breeding, but majority of the time, when you breed too much, man, you end up losing at least 30% of them anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean, it's definitely, definitely. In my experience, you know what I mean? I've seen people with, 50 well-bred, healthy fowl that they raise, 50 cocks. go in and dominate people that raise 1,000. You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
because they can take the time to care for them. You know what I mean? And they know the
Hmm.
roosters a little better. It's just a big benefit. It's better to raise 50 healthy roosters than 150 that half of them are sick. So. That's
That's
common sense.
exactly right.
Once I said, once again, common sense. You just got to use a little common sense and don't lie to yourself. If your bird, if your birds are sick, you better get in the book, like we said. Start reading, educating yourself. What medicine do I need so I can get this rooster healthy? Because if they don't
Hmm.
if you can't cure them within the first 1 or 2 doses, the best thing you can do, you got to cull.
Right. Okay. So you give them, like you say, you give them that beginning phase. Like you ain't running no hospital over there. You're not gonna run a long-term treatment center. He got a couple doses. If he ain't recovering in that couple doses, then it's over with.
That's right.
So now, Jared, that moves us to the next topic. And he's, like I said, it's been some great topics. So that moves us to the next topic. Now we talked about the breeding, the setup, the selection, the genetics, the health, and all that. Let's talk about as far as the breeding aspect. Do you natural hatch or do you use an incubator? And how many do you raise a year?
I mean, we do both. I prefer the hen to hatch them, but I'll be
Hmm.
honest with you. This year we did better with the incubator than we did with the hens. For some reason, I don't know why. The hens, sometimes they'll get in there and jumping in and out. They'll break an egg, and if you're not on it right off the bat, it'll mess up the other eggs. So
Right.
it happened like that. But we did better with the incubator this year. I'll be honest.
Okay. Okay. So tell me this, Jared. So how many do y'all guys pretty much hatch a year? 100?
Probably about 150 to 200 at the most.
Okay. Okay. So about 150 to 200. Okay. All right. And you said this year. So is this y'all first year with the incubator, or just y'all kind of use incubator and natural hatch periodically throughout all the
I
years?
just, well, my son Jonathan, he's my partner, and he does a
Hmm.
great job. He's got a really good eye for breeding, and he does a lot of the breeding. I let him take
Hmm.
care of it. I just kind of, if he needs to know something, I'll try to help him out on it or whatever. But um, the the reason why I like to use the hens myself is
Hmm.
the biddies, for some reason, they're just healthier. When the hens
Okay.
hatch them, they're just healthier. I don't know why, they just are. I mean, that's
Right.
just Mother Nature. God taking care of it or whatever you want to call it. But the hens, when they hatch them out, the chicks come out, and if they're running with their mama right there, they ain't never had nothing done to them in their life, ain't never been in no heat lamps, no nothing, and they come
Hmm.
out super healthy and strong.
Hmm.
Okay, if they got a
Hmm.
good mama, if the mama takes care of them right, they'll be stronger than them birds in raising an incubator. Now, when they get
Right.
adult, when they become adults, I mean, you know how it goes. Anyone can win on any given day.
That's
But
right.
you know, it's just the hen hatch ones to me seem to be a little more disease resistant. Uh,
Hmm.
they seem to be healthier and
Hmm.
a little bit bigger. Just a little more healthier
Got you. Got you.
and
So
a lot
so
smarter, a lot smarter. The
Yeah,
mama
yeah,
raised
yeah,
them to
yeah.
be
That natural
smart. Yeah,
instinct, that kind of natural
yeah.
instinct, they get taught a lot through that natural instinct for sure. And it's almost like a zoo animal being born in a zoo and then one being born out in the wild. They still live to be X amount of years old, but that one in the, what I mean? And I'm saying that the one in the zoo don't have the instinct of the one in the wild, but it's a whole different level. To me,
That's
my
right.
personal experience is a whole different level for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so Jerry, let's talk about, and we'll probably go and kind of close this out with which because like I think we covered pretty much everything. Now let's get into the feed. Let's talk about what you feed your chicks, you know, your stags up to your cocks, and then do you change your feed around and molt? So let's start with the chicks. What do you feed your chicks? Do you medicated, non-medicated? Take us through that.
Well, I used to use the medicated feed whenever I could get it, but they don't sell it no more. You can't get
Mm-hmm.
medicated feed over here where I'm at. They
Mm-hmm.
sell these little bitty bags. They're like maybe I don't know, maybe a pound of feed or 2 pounds of feed in there. They got a few of them that are medicated, but definitely it's better to have medicated feed if you can when they're first coming up, but they don't sell it here no more. So we just use the 20, 21%, 22% starter crumbles.
Okay. Okay. And Jared, how long do you kind of run that until you start trying to transition them over to, would it be just your yard feed, transition them over to the next stage of feed?
Well, see, we use it probably, I'm gonna say, for at least the first 2 months, month and a half, 2
Okay.
months, and then from there you can start mixing the feed. If you got them up off the ground, I keep mine up off the ground. I like to keep them up off the ground for the first couple of months, and
Okay.
once they start getting big enough to where they can turn loose. Now, once I turn them loose, I like to leave some feed out in the feeders that is maybe like half of the bitty crumbles and half scratch. You know what I mean? You can use scratch, just a good quality scratch, because it's got little cracked corn in it and stuff like that, stuff that they can still digest.
Right. Okay.
And then
So
yeah,
go ahead.
and from there, like I said, the yard feed that we use for the for the yard is just a regular. I like bluebonnet feed has been good to us. You know what I mean? It's just a yard maintenance. I like mixed yard maintenance and a little bit of conditioner, and I mix it, like that.
Okay, so tell me this, Jerry. So that's pretty much your yard. Do you feed that pretty much all year long?
Pretty much all year long. You know what I mean? Of course, like now it's starting to get hot. You want to cut down on the corn. You want to cut down on the corn, and the whole corn. So you can maybe, use a little scratch mixed with the conditioner, and then add some pellets in there. I use an 18% pellet,
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, tell me this. Do you change your feed during a molt, or you just pretty much kind of stay the same? Do anything different or particular in during a molt?
During the molt, no, we don't really do anything different.
Okay.
Some people say, to cut the protein percentage down, to go ahead and let them molt out. Some people say, hey, let's put more protein in them so it's good for the feathers coming in. But I just keep it, like I said, it's just, we keep ours on basically the same feed throughout the whole year. Now, like I said, when it gets hot, we'll cut the whole corn out a little bit. Okay, and then you can add some soaked oats or whatever you want to do, but to replace a little bit of that corn. But you don't want whole corn builds heat. That's the reason why. Okay, and when it's the summer months, if they eat a lot of whole corn, they're going to hold heat. They're going to have a little fever in them if you feed them too much.
Right. Okay. Well, man, like I say, dude, this has been some great information, man. Is there any other particular topics you think we need to cover? I think you pretty much covered everything, dude, and I think it's great. It's a lot, man. We had a ton of comments, man. A ton of comments about this interview. And it's been a lot of people. It's been about 120, 130 people on all at one time. I mean, like almost throughout the whole entire interview, which is awesome. But I think, man, like I say, man, I think we touched on pretty much all the points. I really like your whole concept and your approach to breeding, especially when you talked about, with your 4 individual families. You feel as though, they should all be able to do good within themselves without doing a whole bunch of crossing. I mean, I really like your approach and your mindset when it comes to that. Your feeding program. I like the fact that, with your breeding selection, what you look for. The whole thing also too, Jerry, is the fact that you have the whys to everything that you're doing. Like, it's really nothing that you're doing because somebody told you to do it. Like, you know exactly why you're doing everything within your program. You know why you keep it on your lines within itself. You know why you feed particular things. You know why you're doing your broodstock selection the way it is, when it even comes down to the eyes, to the legs, to the body structure. You know what I mean? I think that's one very impressive thing. And I think that's something that a lot of the younger guys coming up, and you talked about at the beginning, is the fact that understanding the whys and not just the hows. And I think that's kind of what separates. And you drove a good point home about that reading aspect. Reading. I don't understand. Guys treat reading like it's kryptonite to Superman, dude. Like they refuse to read anything unless it's a Facebook post or Facebook comment. But if it ain't no
Yeah.
post or comment, they won't read it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot from these old articles, from these old school guys too, in the old Gamecock magazine. I love reading through the old Gamecock magazines. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's just there's a wealth of knowledge in there. I mean, back when they used to be 120, 130, 140 pages. I mean,
Right.
it was full of information from all kinds of people. I mean, some
Right.
of it, hey, if it doesn't benefit you, that's fine, move on. But there's always a few articles in there that you can learn something from, and that's what I did. I did a lot of reading, and I applied my common sense. I'd ask myself, well, does this make sense, or would this benefit me, or something
Mm-hmm.
like that, and I tried. But if you want to be successful, you got to put the time. You have to learn the knowledge. You got to know why you're doing what you're doing and when you want to do it. you know uh like I said, we only raise 150 roosters a year.
Right.
And I've gone back when it was legal to, we loved going to Sunset. It was a beautiful place. We
Right.
showed roosters Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Right.
And we went down there and won against the best. I mean, I know Oscar. I mean, I knew Oscar Akins. I
Right.
talked to Johnny Jumper. I sat next to him.
Right.
I sat next to Mr. Johnny Stansel, and all
Right.
those guys over there. You know what I mean? It was a blast. You know what I mean? It was
Right.
great.
Yeah, dude. I mean that's exactly right, man. I think again you're just proofing and putting. Like I said at the beginning of the intro, your size farmer doing what you're doing is the backbone of the sport. Um, but the information that you shared tonight, man, I think a lot of these guys, especially new ones, can take that information to the bank. I mean, all the interviews are great, and we're all able to take something out of every interview. But you coming on, you're only raising 150 to 200 at the most. Still very active. So that let guys know you don't need to have 3, 4, 5, 600 on a yard to do what you do. It's paying attention to a lot of detail, learning the whys, not just the hows, doing reading, educating yourself, putting your hand. I mean, all of those points you covered, man. And I think, you know, a large part of the community, they know this type of stuff, but it's putting it in practice is what separates, in my opinion, what separates the ones who's doing well and the ones who's not doing well. I don't think it's a lack of knowledge. I don't think it's a lack of
Yeah.
genetics. I think it's a lack of putting in the work. You know what I mean? Because like you say, is you can get good genetics now. Like you couldn't get it back in the 90s, but now you can get good genetics. It's a ton of information out there, so you can learn how to feed your fowl, keep them healthy. You got access to
Health.
all different types of
Yeah.
medications and stuff. If that's what you want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I think like I say, man, this has been a great interview, dude. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that information because again, man, with these interviews, sometimes guys, I say this all the time. Sometimes some guys just need confirmation that what they're doing will work, or confirmation that they can be successful, even though they don't have 500 on the yard or 300 on the yard. You know what I mean? Sometimes guys need to see somebody that's like them that's like, wow, you
Yeah.
know what? That dude's kind of like me. He only doing 100, 150, a year, and shoot, he's doing well. You know what I'm saying? And I think, that's why it's so important to bring on guys like yourself to come on and share that type of information. And you got the big time mindset. I mean, if you wanted 5,000, you sure know how to take care of them. So you got the knowledge and everything, but you choose to have
Right.
the size that you have because it fits within your situation. And
Yeah.
and guys need to be okay with that. You know what I mean? Don't chase somebody else's dream. Chase your own. You know what I'm saying? Don't look at what
I'll tell
somebody
you
else
what.
had.
I'll tell you what helped me out a lot too, and it's probably obtainable still. You can probably still get it through you know a feed store or on the internet somewhere. You know what I mean? It's a book called the Backyard Flock by Mike Strecker, and it
Right.
it gives you it's important to read that because it tells you what the symptoms of certain diseases and sicknesses are, because that's a big plus, knowing what to do, and that book
Mm.
will help you out a lot. It's not a very big book. It's probably only about maybe 25 pages, but the information in it, it tells you, what the symptoms are of this, or look at the droppings. If they're dropping like this, and, you might want to, this is the medicine that you need to get. And I mean, it really helps you out a lot. So a lot of those guys out there, check it out. It's a book called The Backyard Flock by Mike Strecker. It's about diseases and disease control.
Right. Well, guys, y'all heard that, and he's 100% right. It is a good book for sure, and has some great information. And it goes back to what, like Jared just said, is just even knowing first how to identify something, and then second, what you need to do about it. But one of the keys is definitely identifying it, because if you lack the ability to identify something, when you do identify it, it's probably going to be too late. You know what I mean? So having that knowledge beforehand. I also recommend the fact that if you can get that book or articles like that book or whatever the case is, learn the information before you need it. Don't wait till you need it to start searching for it. You know what I mean? Go out there and learn the information now before you need it. Just because you don't have any sick birds on the yard, or you may not have none the last 3 or 4 seasons, pick up a book, read something, learn it now, because the season that you do have it, you don't want to be out there searching information or messaging guys like that video I done the other day, messaging all these guys.
Do your homework before. Do your homework before,
right?
Because it'll help you. It'll help you in the end. And like you said, Jim, that's what your show's about. Journey to the pit. This is
exactly.
The journey starts from the time they're hatched out, or whatever you want to do. If you want to buy some or whatever, already grown fowl, whatever. But it still starts when you get them in your hands. When you get them in your hands, what are you going to do with them? That's the key.
That's right.
What are you going to do with them to be successful? You got to keep that in mindset. You know what I mean? And I also wanted to just quickly say that I've been blessed to have some good friends, you know what I mean, in this sport. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've had some good friends, that some of them just, help you out with certain things. And, the old men that when I was younger, and they gave me a lot of good information and stuff. But, I've met some good people in this sport, man. And it's a shame that it is where it's at right now. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything, man. I mean, going back in the days, thinking back in those days, I mean, it was great seeing all those old school people,
Right. To me, it's priceless. It's experiences, man. I mean, that's something. That's the only thing you can take to your grave is your life experiences. You can't take anything else. You know what I mean? But like you say, just experiencing those things as you're growing up is something that you'll never change, man. But like I say, brother, Jerry, it's been a great pleasure, man. This is an awesome interview, and I'm gonna go ahead and put you on the spot. Would you be willing to come on in the future for another episode? We kind of talk about maybe some different topics, because again, I mean, it's only an hour and a half.
Yeah,
you got to try to cram as much as you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we can talk about chickens all night long. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things we can talk about. But I want to,
so we
before we go, though, I do. Yeah, before we go,
ahead,
I do want to give a shout out to my partner, my son Jonathan, and he's a great kid, man. You know what I mean? He works hard, and he's the one that wanted those blacks. You know what I mean? And I got them in our hands, and then once we started messing with them, we seen that they were real good. So, he loves his blacks, and I just wanted to say, he does a great job, and I'm glad that he's my partner. It's a blessing to have him as my partner. I got a couple of other good friends. Mr. Daryl Cormier, he's a really good feeder. He's given me a lot of good tips too. You know what I mean? My buddy Chad Babin. You remember Chad Babin? He met you out there at one time. Yeah, he's a real cool guy, and he's helped us out a lot too. You know what I mean? And he's good people, man. But there's a lot of good dudes out there, man. You know what I mean? We just gotta, in this sport, honestly, it needs to be about trying to, be good to people, man, and it'll come back to you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Be good to people, and it'll come around to you. You may not agree on everything all the time, but just know that it's just a disagreement. It ain't got nothing to be personal about. You know what I mean? Just try to help the next person out, and it should come back to you. God is good. It's gonna, it'll come back. So that's basically what I wanted to say, and I appreciate you having me on, Jim. Man, it's been a blast, brother. I'd be I hope to see you soon, actually. You
always going to see me, brother. You always going to see me, man. And I always keep my eyes open, man. You know what I mean? I just sit back and do a lot of watching, keep my mouth shut, do a lot of watching. But I like to recognize, give credit where credit is due. And just try to bring a whole different aspect and a whole different approach, because I know it's a lot of guys out there that need information. They have the work ethic, but they lack the information. You know what I mean? They lacking the guidance. And I think, I just try to use
Yeah.
this platform to fill that void. You know what I'm saying? Just provide them
Yeah. They
guys
just need.
because, hey, mhm,
Yeah. You need some positive encouragement. I kind of seen. I think you did a couple of interviews with Manuel Alfaro
right,
Farms or something like
right,
that. And
right.
his daughter is really involved in it. I can't remember her name right now, but
Gigi.
she's
Her name
whole.
is Gigi.
Yeah, her name is Gigi. Yeah, I mean that
Mhm.
to me was super cool, man. Seeing her do that. I got a friend of mine named Sam. He has a daughter named Dallas, and she's
Wow.
about the same age. She's like 15, 16 years old, and she comes to the shows with us sometimes, and she'll hold the rooster.
Right,
I'm showing her how to hold the bird and all that stuff, and
right.
what I mean. It's cool to see the younger generation doing that, especially girls. You know what I mean? That's cool.
It's powerful, brother. It's powerful. And I try to use this platform to make change. And one of the biggest things with change is the exposure. Young kids need to know that it's somebody out there that look like them, that love to do what they do. And once they see one kid doing it, then they like, you know what? I want to do that too. I never even thought about that. And I think it's a very, very powerful thing, man. We got to put these young children, provide them with the information that they need, provide them with the resources that they need, because this sport has given us so many blessings, memories, and successes and materialistic things and all that. I think it's our responsibility. I don't even think it's an option. I think it's actually our responsibility to set the stage for the next generation, to be able to enjoy the same sport that has given us so much. And that's one of the reasons, these interviews, sometimes it kind of irritates me a little bit when some individuals or just a part of a community, all they want to do is take from the sport. They don't have no desire to give anything back into the sport. They got every excuse in the world not to give, but they'll take, 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 take. And
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair.
Unfortunately,
I don't think it's fair.
unfortunately though, the one of the big, the internet, I mean the Facebook stuff, I mean it's a blessing and a cursing, you know what I'm saying? Because it opens up avenues for the bad, but it also is a big plus for people that are actually, trying to learn something, and for people to get in touch with people across the nation, and see pictures of
Yep.
fowl and stuff. I mean, it's a blessing in that way. But you just got
Yep.
to take the good with the bad, and keep a positive attitude.
That's it, brother. That we're gonna close it out with that, because that's exactly right. You gotta take the good with the bad and just keep a positive attitude and always do the right thing. That's the bottom line. You know what I mean? That's
It's
the
called
bottom
yeah,
line.
it's called integrity.
Exactly. Exactly. So, Jerry,
All
brother,
right,
we're going to
Jim.
close
I
it out.
appreciate you, brother. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, man. It was a pleasure, man. We're going to bring you back on the show. Guys, I know we didn't get to a lot of comments in the comment section. And as y'all guys know, we already over an hour and a half, and we haven't even addressed any of the comments in the comment section. And now y'all see why. Because if we would have, it would have been 2.5 hours, and we still would have been, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
believe that
and I'd be
Jerry
welcome.
has covered.
I'd be willing to
No, I was
come
going to
back
say
on.
that
And
you covered pretty
yeah,
much. I ain't gonna say you covered everything, but you pretty much covered every topic that we talked about. You covered it in great detail. And like I said, I'm pretty sure if you can go in the comment section and maybe address some of the comments, and some people that want to reach out to you for game foul and stuff like that, you do what you do in the comment section on that.
all
But
right.
it's some people that want to, get in contact with you. So if you want to, after the show, whatever, when you get time, you can go in the comment section and maybe address some of those. It's a lot of comments. Maybe if you got the time to address some
Yeah,
of those comments,
if
that'd
I
be
can get to some of them, yeah, I'll do that. I ain't got no problem with that. I'll try to help somebody out if they need some help.
that will be greatly appreciated. And like I say, guys, we're gonna have them on again. I'll look through the comment section and kind of give me some bullet points of what we're gonna talk about during the next show. But I hope y'all guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I enjoyed it. It's exactly what I expected. That's the reason why I brought Jerry on. I felt as though he had a lot that he can bring to the table. I think he's, to me, the kind of like the carbon copy of the backbone of the sport. There's so many other breeders out there with his size farms and that can relate so much to his journey. I thought he would be a great fit, and it turned out to be exactly what I thought it was. So, brother, you have a good night. Hopefully, I'll be seeing you very soon, sooner than later. Don't worry, we'll be crossing paths like we have before many times. So, like I say, man, just have a good evening. stay focused, stay positive, and stay blessed. And I'll be talking to you soon.
Yes, sir, Jim. I appreciate you, brother. God bless, brother.
All right, brother. Have a good evening.
Yes, sir.
All righty, there you go. That was Jerry Lopez from Nitrous Gamefarms coming out of Texas. I think this has been an awesome interview tonight. We cover all the topics. He drove some really, really great points. A couple of things that he talked about that to me really sticks home is the fact that his philosophy when it comes to breeding. He has 4 different bloodlines on his yard. He believes that he can each of those bloodlines give him what he needs, so he just breeding within himself. He believes definitely in reading and educating yourself on different types of things. Read as much as you possibly can. I know that's not a big thing that's pushed in this community, but for the ones that's successful, believe me, they're doing some reading, and they're reading more than Facebook posts and comments. You know what I mean? Also, too, he's just kind of running one of those operations, man. He doesn't have a big operation. Like I say, he only hatches about 150 to 200 a year, and that's enough for him and his son. They do very well. They're very successful. They're very active. He's like he talked about. He's doing it all natural. And it's some very, very good points. Talked about yard setup, what things are important. I think his 5-point system, I think, is gold. If y'all guys haven't written it down, or if you came in late after Jerry went over his 5-point system, I think you should go back to the beginning of the interview and catch that part. But that 5-point system, to me, covers it all. And then it's up to you on how in depth you want to go into each point. But those 5 points, that was solid. To me, that was gold. So I hope y'all guys enjoyed the show. Stay tuned for the next show. We'll be airing Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll post up sometime next week who will be our special guest. I will be doing some traveling, so we might have to change the dates, but I will keep y'all guys posted because I will be doing some traveling, so I may not be available for a Friday night show. Might have to do it on Wednesday or Thursday or Tuesday or Sunday. I don't know, but I'll keep y'all guys posted. So we do have more Journey to the Pit shows coming. Another big surprise is we are in the works right now to be interviewing game fowl breeders in Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, Peru. So we're in talks right now. We're trying to get the back channel stuff set up as far as the Wi-Fi and being able to stream and the translator. We already got the translator in place. So just to let y'all guys know, don't be surprised if our next guest we're interviewing is in Mexico, not just from Mexico, but it's actually in Mexico. Very, very active. And we will be talking to him soon. But like I say, we'll be talking to breeders in different countries now, not just from different countries, but actually interviewing those people in those countries. So we got, like I said, we got Mexico on the list. We got Guatemala on the list. We got Honduras on the list. And we're going to be talking about talking to these breeders, and they use different tools and different setups and different lines and everything. So I think that's something that we got in the works. We've been working really, really hard on it on the back end. So hopefully y'all guys will hang around. And I'm very, very excited. I'm very excited to be kind of going like international. Journey to the Pit is almost on the verge. We're at that tipping point to go international. So hopefully y'all guys are with us and follow us along in that journey when we start to interview these international breeders from different parts of the world. So guys, it was a good night. Appreciate y'all guys hanging out. I hope y'all guys enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Continue to post comments in the comment section. Jerry said he'll get to them. I'll get to them. Other than that, y'all guys have a blessed weekend. Remember to stay focused, stay positive, stay blessed, and we'll see you at the next show. Have a good night.